Fasting has been done for centuries all through Europe and has been well known to be a trigger to bring about healing processes in the body. So what I'd like to look at in this presentation is fasting, what it is and the effect that it has on the body. And research is coming out today that is revealing that fasting is doing far more than most people thought. So I'd like to have a look at the different types of fasting. But first of all, what is fasting? Fasting basically, in the dictionary says, absence of food. Food is eaten to give nourishment to every cell in our body. So what happens when we don't fast? Now, as I showed you yesterday, when we went inside the cell, here is the cell, and we have the pathways. We looked at the 20-step pathway. And this 20-step pathway gives us 2 units of energy. This is where glucose goes down. The end result of the 20-step pathway is a chemical form of glucose called pyruvate. Pyruvate is the chemical form of glucose that gets fed into the 8-step pathway. And this 8-step pathway delivers to us 36 units of energy because of the presence of oxygen. Whereas this pathway, no oxygen. So this is your glycolytic pathway, and this is the mitochondria Krebs cycle pathway. We also looked at the fact that the body also stores glucose like little molecules, just like a little bunch of grapes really. Looks like a little bunch of grapes, but they're little molecules of glucose sitting in the muscle cell particularly, ready to be plucked when no food's coming in. And we also looked at the third place that the liver sends glucose when we eat is as the fat cells. And the fact is that we can go periods of time without eating because we've got these backups. We've got our glycogen stores already in our muscle cell. We've got our fat stores. So we can go periods without eating because there are stores in the background. So what happens when you fast? Well, one type of fasting is absence of food for a period of time. And we look in the Bible, when Israel was being challenged, often the king would go through a period of fasting and he'd get all the people of Israel together and they would fast and pray, asking God to intervene because the enemy was too big and too great. And there are some amazing stories of how God did that. But often fasting was chosen. You see, 1,200 calories is required to digest a meal. So when you're not digesting a meal, all that blood and energy is going to other areas. And because the brain is headquarters, capital city of the human body, when you need to do some intense thinking, and I guess when Israel was in trouble and they were praying and pleading with God for wisdom, for intervention, then all their body's energies, well, the body's energies that usually go with digestion were able to go to brain function, help, clear mind. You see, when they weren't eating, the body started plucking the glycogen stores and started eating up the fat stores. So fasting has been used for that, but fasting has also been used as a way of healing the body from certain diseases. You see, when you're not digesting and your brain's not going into intense brain function, the body basically says, wow, this is great. We've got a little bit of extra energy here. We can go to the areas of greatest need. And at our health retreat, our guests go through 2 days of fasting. And in those 2 days of fasting, we give them juices, because juices bypass digestion. Well, basically, I think digestion takes about 10 minutes. And what happens when you're bypassing digestion? All that blood and energy goes to areas of greatest need. It can be likened to what happens when you're on holidays at home. When I'm on holidays at home, I go to the areas of greatest need. So every day I sweep the floor, I do the dishes, I make the bed, I wash the clothes, but there are little areas in the house that I look at and I think they can wait. Maybe some papers are piling up in a corner. They can wait, they're not a priority. So when I have holidays at home, I go to those areas of greatest need. You see, the body knows what to do, it knows how to heal you. God put that amazing process inside the body. And when you're fasting, the body basically says, great, we've got a little bit of extra help now. We can go to those areas of greatest need. And as I often tell our guests at our health retreat, in every single body, the energies are going to a different area. It all depends on the greatest need. But before rest and rejuvenation can happen, the first thing the body has to do is clean house. And we have 4 organs of elimination we looked at earlier in this series of lectures. We've got our skin, which throws off waste. We've got our urine that's throwing off waste. We've got our lungs that are also throwing off waste. And we've got our colon, which is eliminating the largest pieces of waste. So all the waste is coming out of the body. But there are some areas of waste that are fairly toxic. And the liver, being the project manager, the liver is the one that detoxifies us, or basically is in charge of the detoxification process. And your liver detoxifies you in 3 ways. So number 1 requirement is to stop eating. And when you stop eating, the fat stores start to get broken down to give the necessary glucose for your cells to run. But all through our life, when we're confronted with or take in by mouth, by skin, environmental poisons, they always go to the liver. The liver's the project manager. And sometimes these environmental poisons come to the liver and the liver says, this is a nasty, nasty guy. Wrap him up in fat and store him. So in our fat cells, we've got these environmental poisons stored up. And then the person comes to the health retreat and they stop eating and the fat stores are getting broken down to give the glucose that our cells need to run on, and something else a little bit more sinister is being released. It's the fat-soluble toxins. And these fat-soluble toxins that have been building up in our fat cells all our life. And what the liver does, it must break that down to a water-soluble state. That's the only way that it can be released out of the body, is as a water-soluble state. And so the liver does this in 3 stages. Let me show you. Phase 1 of the liver detox is where the liver takes this fat-soluble toxin, I've made a little symbol to make it a little easier, and it breaks it down to a metabolite. Metabolite simply means the first stage of metabolism or the first stage of breakdown. And this metabolite is more toxic than it originally was. It creates a lot of free radicals. This metabolite is highly volatile, and this metabolite creates a lot of free radicals, and free radicals are damaging to the tissues. And you might make the comment, what's the liver doing? It's just created something worse than it originally was. It's a process. It's like when we clean up the garage. Halfway through cleaning up the garage, it looks 100 times worse than when we started because we're pulling everything out. Basically, that's what's happening. Now, within 36 hours of going on a fast, phase 2 kicks in. And in phase 2, the liver takes this highly toxic, highly volatile metabolite and joins it together with amino acids. The union of this highly toxic, highly volatile metabolite with the amino acids, it basically joins it together like this. It locks the highly volatile metabolite with amino acids. That creates the water-soluble state. And in a water-soluble state, it can be easily released out of the body. So the symbol for the water-soluble state is a wave in a box. Phase 3 happens in conjunction with phase 2. And phase 3 is where the liver takes this water-soluble state and basically releases it out via your sweat glands, releases it out via your urine, releases it out via your colon. You see, it is now a water-soluble state and it can be easily released out.